Hello, and we are live at Welcome to Useful Idiots Monday morning, where we talk about the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. And I'm Katie Halper from Useful Idiots.
I'm Aaron Maté. I'm also from Useful Idiots.
Yes, this is a Useful Idiots stream, in case you wandered in here.
Yeah.
Just because of a very good thumbnail. Shout out to Wilson for the thumbnail. How was your week, Aaron? Weekend
was good. I saw a play. It's called Black No More. It's a musical starring Black Thought of the Roots. And it was great to see. It was great to see a production. It was cool. If you're in New York City, I recommend it.
Okay, cool. Black No More. Is that based on? Isn't that a science fiction book?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's based on that. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Black Pessimist science fiction, I believe.
Yeah.
Or
how was your weekend?
Science fiction. It was good. No culture, such as the culture you imbibed during your weekend. I see a lot of people saying free Assange, by the way, and I just want to say I will be at a free Assange comedy show that Lee Camp and Randy Credico are going to be at, and some others, and that's on the 27th. People are saying echo. Is there an echo? Wilson?
You sound good to me.
All right. Okay. Is that one person who said echo? Because if that's true, if more than one person... All right, it's one person. I'm tempted to ban you for lying.
You're a saboteur.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Delbert Newman. No echo. Instead, actually, you know what? PD gets a timeout because that was very disruptive.
Were they saying that there was an echo? I thought the reason I highlighted it, I thought someone in the comments was just saying like, I'm talking into nothing, like when comments that you're not going to get heard.
Oh.
And so it's saying, I'm echoing. And so I thought that was kind of funny.
You know what? I'm sorry. I put you in a timeout for 5 minutes. You'll be back in 5 minutes and then I'll apologize to you again. But that's just
It could be the Russians, Katie. It could be the Russians. Back during the Soviet Union, the major way that the Soviet Union would crush dissent would be to go into a meeting of dissenters and have like an agent say the speaker is echoing, and then that would ruin the meeting and destroy it.
Really?
So this is a classic Soviet technique.
I didn't know that. I can't believe I didn't know that.
Yes, wow. I'm concerned that the Russians are trying to infiltrate.
Yeah,
the chat room and destroy us.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
You saboteur.
Yep.
We should show. We should show you on Tucker Carlson.
It wasn't on Sunday though.
I know, but I mean, I think people would be willing to have an exception. I guess we can talk about on this week's show. We'll do that. We'll do that on this week's show. We'll have Aaron talking about being on.
We'll do live reaction to. We'll do reaction to my.
Oh yeah, we will. Okay. We'll do that. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, want to encourage everyone to join our Substack because you'll get a great segment with the wonderful Katrina vanden Heuvel, and also with Aaron, where Aaron goes through his article in detail and cleans up a lot of myths about Ukraine. And Katrina vanden Heuvel and Aaron and I react to a video with her wonderful late husband, the late Russian scholar Stephen Cohen. And you see him go at it with Max Boot, the neocon idiot on Anderson Cooper. So just yet another reason to join our Substack. All right, cool. All right, so let's get the show on the road. What's our first clip, Aaron?
We have we have to start with Meet the Depressed. That's what we've usually been doing with Meet the Depressed with Chuck Todd. Again, credit to Donald J. Trump for coining that one. And we have on the one and only National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, author of the infamous email, which I like to quote all the time when I talk about Syria, written 10 years ago this month, where he told Hillary Clinton, quote, Al-Qaeda is on our side in Syria. And somehow this guy became made the National Security Advisor of the U.S., purportedly tasked with protecting national security, a guy who was on board with siding with Al-Qaeda, the group that attacked the U.S. on 9/11. So that's a window into the mind of Jake Sullivan, who we're about to hear from.
Right. And everyone liked the stream, by the way, or else you're letting the enemies win.
Smash the like button and like the smash button. You got to do both. Yeah.
Start with this warning that you guys gave to lawmakers that has now come out, and that is the intensity of the Russian military buildup, what they have there. You heard Richard's report. Many Ukrainian leaders now see that this appears to be an even bigger threat than they determined.
No, they don't. That's just a lie.
Right.
Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, his defense minister, they keep saying that they do not think a Russian invasion is imminent. This is like wishful thinking by Chuck Todd. He wants Ukraine to be on board with the propaganda of the U.S. government. But no, I'm sorry, buddy, they're not. They're not. They continue to differ from these warnings of the U.S., which by the way, keeps shifting. Remember, for a while, the U.S. line was that a Russian invasion was imminent, right?
Yes.
That was the whole thing. And then last week, Jen Psaki said, all right, fine, we're not using the word imminent anymore. It was giving the wrong impression.
Right.
So now we're about to hear Jake Sullivan try out something else.
Pivot.
What's your sense of how soon something could happen?
Well, Chuck, we're in the window where something could happen. That is a military escalation and invasion.
Oh, we're in the window where something
window.
could happen. Oh. So you mean we're in the realm of possibility of just basically human life where things could happen? Wow. That's huge. What happened to it being imminent?
Yeah, what happened? They didn't have to correct that, right?
Well, no, they just kind of pivoted, and
Right.
now it's like, no, well, it could happen. Anyway, we'll see what he says.
Of Ukraine could happen at any time. We believe that the Russians have put in place the capabilities to mount a significant military operation into Ukraine, and we have been working hard to prepare a response. President Biden has rallied our allies. He's reinforced and reassured our partners on the eastern flank. He's provided material support to the Ukrainians, and he's offered the Russians a diplomatic path if that's what they choose instead. But either way, we are ready, our allies are ready, and we're trying to help the Ukrainian people get ready as well.
People get ready.
People get ready. People get ready. This train coming. Yeah, look, the line has totally shifted. For weeks, it was a Russian invasion is imminent. Now he's saying it could happen at any time, which is a meaningless statement because, of course, anything could happen at any time.
Right.
But they're no longer saying that it's imminent. And that's because, it's just not working. If you drum up this fear-mongering campaign. Actually, today is 100 days since the Washington Post came out with a story, which basically kicked off this episode, this fear-mongering episode. The Washington Post came out with this story saying that U.S. intelligence, has picked up intelligence of 100,000 or up to 100,000 Russian troops massing on the Ukraine border. And that's what kicked off this nonstop fear mongering. And so it's been hard to keep it going for that long with nothing happens of 100 days of just like constantly warning that a Russian invasion is imminent. So now they have to pivot. And in fact, there was just a funny, really story on CNN, which is so funny, that just came out today, where now the U.S. is saying that intercepted communications show that Russian leaders are worried about the costs of an invasion, suggesting that they're not going to do it now because they're worried about the costs that would be imposed on them because of all these threats of mighty U.S. sanctions and all that, which just happens to fit conveniently the propaganda needs of the U.S. at this time because Russia hasn't invaded, contrary to their warnings, and I don't think Russia ever is going to invade. So now they have to make it look as if, U.S. bellicosity caused Russia to back down. And so, and there's a long history of the U.S. claiming to have intercepted communications that happen to meet their propaganda needs. That's happened in Syria. That's happened with Russiagate. And the U.S. always manages to say that it's intercepted communications that perfectly align with what their propaganda needs are at that exact same moment.
Aaron, I'm going to invade your apartment in a certain window.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a window where that could happen. So you should get ready.
Yeah, well, anybody could, I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone should just always be on guard in their home because anybody can invade at any moment.
The Russians could. I mean, Putin could show up. It's not outside the realm of possibility, and we have to be prepared for that possibility. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So good old Jake Sullivan. All right. Now shall we go to another Meet the Press clip? This is a nice roundtable, and it's an interesting discussion.
Spend this last minute pivoting a little bit more to Ukraine in this respect. The U.S. has wanted us to take their word on a lot of allegations they've made against the Russians here. It seems as if this is a weird stance to take when we don't like when the Russians do the disinformation game. We need to have a little more trust but verify here, and they seem to be on the defensive. Why aren't they being more forthcoming?
They will tell you that they're not being more forthcoming because they're trying to protect intelligence assets.
If I hear the phrase sources and methods one more time, it is such a crutch.
It is. I mean, the scene at the State Department briefing this past week between Matt Lee of the AP and Ned Price was. We all love Matt Lee. He's great, but he was completely right. And Ned saying, read what I said, and that's that doesn't necessarily work. But
You're just the spokesperson, right? That's not ever.
That's really funny. So, for those who missed it last week at the State Department. We have the clip
we're going to show. We can show, yeah.
Matt Lee of the State Department did what a journalist is supposed to do, and instead of just
not of the State Department, you mean?
At the State Department, yeah. Sorry, Matt Lee of the Associated Press at the State Department did what a journalist is supposed to do. And instead of just accepting U.S. government claims about Russia on faith, he said, where's the evidence? And this was in response to the U.S. government's claims that Russia has plans to launch a false flag, including with crisis actors.
Right.
And they've, even made plans for a video production to put out like a fake video of a Ukrainian attack. And Matt Lee asked for evidence, and Ned Price just said, well, we have I'm telling you that what I'm saying is the evidence. And then he kind of suggested that Matt Lee was being sympathetic to Russian.
That was the best part.
To Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
So this has put journalists like Chuck Todd and everyone on the panel in an awkward position, because that's a rare example of a journalist actually doing their job, something they never do. So now they have to pretend that they love Matt Lee and they're totally down. So like Chuck's like, God bless Matt Lee.
Yeah, he's great. He says he's fun too.
He's fun.
Which is like a little bit dismissive, but she did say, Helene Cooper said that he was totally right, which kind of shocked me. But I mean, as you're saying, that maybe that solidarity only goes so far when those journalists never engage in that questioning of intelligence sources, right?
Of course they have to say that, because if they don't, he just exposes what complete hacks they are.
Right, exactly.
So they have to pretend that they're down with what he did. But of course, they'll never do that.
Right.
They will never, ever, ever do that.
Right. And this woman's beat is the Pentagon. And so I haven't seen her question her sources there.
No, and if you're a Pentagon correspondent in a major U.S. media outlet, that basically means you're a Pentagon spokesperson.
Right, you're a stenographer. Right, yeah. Can we just watch the rest, see what they say? If they say anything else interesting, I forgot if there's anything at the end of this clip. I was kind of just shocked, although naively shocked that they even praised him. I kind of thought they'd ignore him, but let's see. Anything else good at the end?
Evidence.
We're entering a new phase right now of information warfare that the Biden administration is trying to wage against a master in that game, which is Vladimir Putin. But, they haven't done that poorly so far.
Okay, there we go. And there's the moral of the story, right? That the reason that they're engaging in this warfare, which they fumbled on maybe because they didn't do it well enough, is because they're dealing with this master. But they're not doing that bad. Aaron, they're not doing that bad, despite the stuff that happened between Ned Price and Matt Lee.
And it's important, if you're a journalist covering the U.S. government, to give feedback on how effectively the U.S. government is doing propaganda.
Right. Yeah, and they give them a little pat on the head.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what a journalist is supposed to do.
That is what a journalist is.
Constructive feedback on whether the propaganda is effective or not. And of course, nothing can match the propaganda of the master propagandist who sits in his lair coming up with propaganda every single day, Vladimir Putin.
Right.
Because that's all he does.
And he's forcing us to do this.
Yes, he is forcing us to. Yeah. Yes, he is.
Should we watch some of that clip? Some of the some of the Ned Price, Matt Lee clip?
Sure.
I mean, it's a pretty historic clip.
A statement.
Matt, you said yourself, you've been in this business for quite a long time. You know that when we make intelligence information public, we do so in a way that protects sensitive sources and methods. You also know that we declassify information only when we're confident in that information. If you doubt the credibility of the U.S. government, of the British government, of other governments, and want to find solace in information that the Russians are putting out, that is for you to do.
I'm not asking what the Russian government is putting out.
how can you doubt the credibility of the U.S. and British governments?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, you know, putting aside like, you know, the Iraq War, Libya, Syria, everywhere, just even on the narrow issue of Ukraine and Russia and UK and US, they were caught lying recently. We talked about this in a recent episode where Britain said that they had discovered this Russian coup plot, right? And the US said, well, the British discovered it and we think it's credible. And then a week later, it came out quietly in the Washington Post that actually the US had come up with this idea of a Russian plot and asked the British government to make it public. And no one's ever explained, if the US was so confident in their intelligence, why did they lie and claim that the British government discovered it? And why did they give it to the British government to make public? Why didn't they come out with it themselves?
Yes.
So, you know, and of course, that was a blatant lie, but no one is
it's unbelievable
because it's just, you know, people, because journalists don't mind being lied to, I guess.
Yes. I mean, that was amazing because what happened a couple minutes, the minutes preceding that is basically Matt Lee of the AP asking Ned Price for any evidence whatsoever. Ned Price being totally flustered because he's not used to being asked to back up anything that he says, right? So the evidence was, when Matt Lee was asking for evidence, he kept saying stuff, and Matt Lee is like, that's not evidence, that's allegations that you're making. Those are the claims that you're making. And he even says, look, I remember Iraq. Right. Mm-hmm. A callback to when the intelligence community totally lied to the world, including the media, about WMDs, about the relationship between Iraq and Osama bin Laden. And shout out to, by the way, major shout out to NBC for hiring Stephen Hayes, I believe is his last name.
Yes.
Who wrote a great book about the connection between Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, and also was a major cheerleader for the Iraq War. And, you know, this is the kind of disinformation and misinformation that everyone up in arms about Joe Rogan may want to pay attention to.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And what do you mean? What is it supposed to mean? Officials are describing very specific scenes, but
that's
do
the
they
end
actually
of it.
have
that's the end of it. Yeah, that was the end of it. Although he opened the door for someone else to actually ask for evidence, which is nice, a nice ripple effect. But yeah, we'll play some more of that later because it's so good. We're gonna have to do a little bit more of that. We'll play that maybe in this week. It'll be an oldie but goodie by then. Okay, poor Ned Price. He gets so flustered. And it's such gaslighting, by the way. Just to summarize, basically, he was asked for evidence. He couldn't provide it. And then he suggested that anyone asking for evidence is taking solace in Russian PR, in Russian propaganda, which is a disgusting thing to say. I mean, not that disgusting, because, of course, for me, that's not that big of an insult. But it's a disgusting old red baiting.
When I have hard to, like, when I'm feeling down, I do take solace in reading RT.
Pravda.
Yeah, or I go to the Pravda archives.
Yeah, me too.
It does lift it's a great antidepressant, actually.
Yeah, you're right. When I'm in a bad mood, I actually really like the old press releases put out by Yeltsin. Those are my favorite.
Those are, oh my God.
They're so good.
That's a great wellness technique.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely hit those Yeltsin press releases.
Yes. All right, next.
Our chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, has been covering the buildup of Russia's military forces. He's on the border of Russia and Ukraine, and eastern Ukraine. And Richard, this is a case, I think, of watch what they do, don't necessarily listen to what Russia says. What do you see, Richard?
Steve.
He looks like a Smurf.
Well, we're seeing a massive military buildup. This is unlike anything I've seen since the American 2003 buildup before it launched the war in Iraq. And I think that's why we're hearing these really dire intelligence assessments coming out from U.S. officials that if there was a war, there could be.
What's weird is he's on the Ukrainian side of the border, and I'm not even sure he can actually see any Russian military where he is, because they're not right there on the line.
Right.
So
it could be, though. We're in that window, Aaron.
Yeah, we're in that window. Sure. I mean, yeah. But basically, anyway, Richard Engel is just, he's unbelievably party line. I never see him have a critical, independent thought ever.
50,000 Ukrainians killed, 25,000. soldiers, 10,000 Russian troops, 1 to 5 million refugees are internally displaced. And these dire warnings are now being heard in Ukraine. For the last several days, several weeks, people had been living in a kind of suspended disbelief that maybe this was just Russia bluffing, that Russia was trying to get some diplomatic advantage. Now people are starting to believe this could happen, and it could happen potentially imminently. So we're starting to see...
potentially imminently.
Imminently.
Yeah. These guys are trying so hard to manufacture a crisis and to scare Ukrainians and to get them basically to tank their economy and make people struggle even more than they already are. I mean, like, Ukraine is not in good shape. But as Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has said, all this war panic coming from Washington is really bad for the Ukrainian economy. It's spooking investors. People are leaving. It's not good. But Richard Engel and the State Department, the White House, they don't care because they need right now this war panic to justify their own agenda against Russia. It's a perfect window into how they've used Ukraine basically as a proxy in their stupid crusade against Russia, for many years now, going back to the coup in 2014, backed by the U.S. that kicked this whole thing off. And Richard Engel is just there to provide dramatic warnings and to parrot these really stupid U.S. intelligence claims about a potential Russian invasion, 1 million refugees, tens of thousands of dead, just to create fear.
Right. And the U.S. with Ukraine being like, can you stop doing this, please? It's not really good for our stability, our economy.
Yeah, but they don't care. They don't care. They don't care about Ukraine. They claim.
I thought that's what they cared about.
Yeah,
I thought we were
breaking,
who will speak for
news.
the Ukrainians if not us? Yeah, if not us, then who? If not we, who? If not us, who? If not now, when?
Rallies in government in major cities. We're seeing more and more people signing.
All right, so that was cut off a little bit, but he just referenced rallies in major cities. And at least one of those rallies was organized, by the way, by a fascist group.
Yeah.
Which they never mention. And unfortunately, that's the part that never gets played up, is that there is a neo-fascist element in Ukraine that the U.S. is sided with. There's the Azov battalion, which the U.S. has armed, which is basically a neo-Nazi militia. And that's the part that they never talk about.
Yeah,
we should do a show on that, right? Volunteer service. Definitely. We're hearing more of a fighting spirit from people. When I ask people, what are they going to do? And they say, we will fight until the end. And I think because this country won't be a walkover, that's why those intelligence estimates are so high for what the cost might be. But Ukrainians also know that if it comes to fighting, they are going to have to fight Russia by themselves. That NATO has promised support. It's sending in some weapons. But at the end of the day, no one isn't coming in here to help them. So Ukrainians will only have their own troops and their own defense systems like these trenches to fight off Russia.
Richard Engel, like I said, he's on the border right now of Russia and Ukraine and eastern Ukraine. Richard, thank you.
Let's go next to the Fox News clip because I think that follows really well. We can go back to the Face of the Nation, but I think this follows well because they're talking about the Ukrainian mobilization.
Moscow has signaled an apparent readiness to talk with the United States and NATO, even as Russia continues to build up along the border of Ukraine and also in Belarus. For more, let's turn to Steve Harrigan, who is live in Kyiv with a look at how the country is preparing for a possible invasion.
By the way, that guy happens to look just like James. What's his name? The guy who wrote All the Pretty Girls, or the Clinton, the president is missing. What's his name? I'll figure it out. Anyway, if anyone in the chat knows, just put it in the chat. But the Clinton co-writer.
Steve.
Martha, Russia's military budget is more than 10 times Ukraine's. Ukrainians are training to fight against the military superpower with wooden rifles. In this village north of Kyiv, they have no illusion about what they face. For some, brave words are mixed with tears.
We will fight, we will share our blood, and if the God decides, we will die, but we will defend our country.
It is His world turned upside down for many here. This underground bunker was built during the Cold War to protect Yuri's family from an American nuclear attack. Now he's getting it ready to protect his family from the Russians. The change is not easy to process.
I still can't imagine Ukraine fighting Russia, but I guess anything is possible.
If Russian forces cross the border,
he probably was saying, like, I still can't imagine Ukraine fighting Russia. And they're like, well, you think it's possible? You think it's possible? Window of opportunity? Well, I guess it's possible.
many Ukrainians, like 68-year-old Yuri, will face a choice.
To tell you the truth, I'm not the kind of person who hides, but my wife is worried and nervous about the situation.
Martha, the word we keep hearing here is pawns. A lot of people feel like they're caught in something bigger than they are, and they're not sure how they got here. Martha, back to you.
Steve Harrigan, thank you, as always, reporting today from Kyiv for us.
Great kind of way to describe life in general. You know, we're caught in something bigger than we are. We're not quite sure how we got here.
Yeah.
You know, it's deep.
Almost as deep as what did Chuck just say? Listen.
Yeah, watch what they do, not what they say.
Not what they say. What are you hearing?
Yeah.
Or watch what they do, not what they say. Right, but what are you seeing? Yeah, okay.
The Fox guy actually, I think, is obliquely referring to the geopolitical game here and how Ukrainians are caught.
Yes.
In basically being used as bullet stoppers and cannon fodder against Russia, where basically the U.S. has sacrificed their country's well-being and tranquility just to start a proxy fight with Russia. I mean, that's what kicked this off in 2014. I won't repeat the history because we've talked about it before, but basically the US and the EU basically forced Ukraine to make a choice between the West and Russia, which has longstanding cultural ties to Ukraine. And the US and EU basically forced Ukraine to make a choice. And when Ukraine kind of tried to have it both ways, have ties to both Russia and the West, a coup happened. Yanukovych, the president of Ukraine, who was not pro-Russian, he was ousted, and that set off this conflict that continues to this day. And so, you know, the Fox News guy, of course, without any specifics, I think was when he talked about Ukrainians feeling caught. Yeah. That is accurate because they are caught.
It was like the most accurate thing we've heard in all the coverage so far.
Yeah.
And yes, Katya Halpovich will be making appearance. Not this Monday morning, but soon, Monday, forthcoming Monday. Okay. Yeah. I got to get my hair ready. All right. But that did have some Red Dawn energy to it, just like the visuals of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Now let's go to, should we go to the Face the Nation? For time's sake, I don't think we can do all of them because we want to bring you some stealth, which we know you're going to love. So fan fave. Should we just do the HR McMaster one?
Sure.
Because we already have a Biden spokesperson talking about what they're doing. We don't need. Oh, the other one does have some good sanctions one. Let's see how quickly we can get through these.
Is the impact then of this growing alliance between Russia and China?
China.
You know, is China going to be
give her credit for the callback? It's a little Trumpian. Hold on.
You think is the impact then of this growing alliance between Russia and China? And, you know, is China going to be emboldened by what happens next in Europe?
I think possibly, depending on how we respond. And of course, China already is more and more aggressive in terms of extending and tightening its exclusive grip on power internally. You've seen how they've gone across sectors of their economy, continuing the genocidal campaign in Xinjiang, extinguishing human freedom in Hong Kong, persecuting journalists and anybody who might criticize the Chinese government during the Olympics, have been intimidated or imprisoned. And then, of course, externally as well, Margaret, and we've seen them bludgeon Indian soldiers to death on the Himalayan frontier, you know, weaponizing these islands on the South China Sea. Now they're painting some of their naval ships Coast Guard colors so they can claim really the biggest land grab in history in the South China Sea. And then, of course, Taiwan is probably the most dangerous flashpoint, and we've seen how aggressive they've been there as well. So it's really important.
Look, there's a lot to go through there. We don't have to get into it, but what's funny is the U.S. and China are engaged right now in a struggle over the South China Sea. because of course the U.S. and China have equal claims to the South China Sea, right? The U.S. we think we're just in one part of the world, but really our jurisdiction extends far and wide to even include the South China Sea.
Yeah. And I think for the free world to come together to strengthen, again, our confidence and to communicate to these totalitarian regimes that they can't accomplish their objectives at our expense.
You think
threat void if totalitarian regime is in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, and any other dictatorship that the U.S. is using right now to impose its will on the rest of the planet. Threat void.
But China threat on, should we watch the one with the Deputy State Treasury Department guy where he talks?
Sure.
Maybe let's watch
it's so
his voice is very soothing. It's very dangerous.
He's a sociopath because he's talking about how great U.S. sanctions are, how hard they've worked to design sanctions that will destroy Russia's economy. And it's this awkward moment where both him and the face, the neocon host, Margaret Brennan, are just they're so excited over the prospect of destroying Russia's economy.
So let's show that. Those are short enough that we can do that.
Talking about this latest intelligence shows Russia has all these forces mounted and could launch this large-scale, full-scale invasion. The impact would be huge in terms of refugee crisis and casualties. What would the impact of the global economy be?
So, Margaret, I'm of course not going to talk about the intelligence, but I want to talk about what we plan to do if Russia were to invade. When we started seeing Russian troops amass near the Ukrainian border, the president asked Secretary Yellen and I to start having conversations with our allies.
By the way, I'm just going to take this moment to do a little grammar PSA. It's not, they didn't ask Secretary Yellen and I. That's hypercorrection. It's me. Okay? They asked Secretary Yellen and me, not I.
Wow. That's controversial.
It's not. It's just the facts. It's controversial for me to go there, maybe, because I'm speaking so much truth to power, because there is a false consensus, and it's hypercorrection, people using I instead of me. I don't care if you use me instead of I. That's colloquial. When you use I instead of me, you're just being pretentious. It's never between you and I. It's not from my mother and I. It's between you and me. From my mother and me. You want my mother and I are going to the store.
And asked Secretary Yellen and I to start having conversations with our allies in Europe to ensure that we would be in a place where we could launch economic sanctions against Russia if they were to invade. We have designed a set of economic sanctions that would take on the Russian financial system, limit President Putin's ability to project power into the future by cutting them off from key technologies and cutting off key elites from the Russian economy. To your question of what would be the impact on the global economy if Russia were to invade, we're already starting to see it. The Russian economy is already suffering from the moment that President Putin started to take these actions. The ruble is having the worst performance among emerging economies thus far this year. You're looking at their borrowing cost increase. And what we would see is Russia's economy suffer if they were to take an action to invade Ukraine.
Do you not find his voice very soothing?
It is soothing. It is soothing.
It's very, I'm telling you, he's a secret weapon, this guy. So don't be fooled by his mellifluous, melodious talk. He is a sociopath, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking, if there's one thing that Americans are concerned about, are waking up every day and wondering, is how can we cripple Russia's economy?
Yeah.
And what financial instruments are available to us to achieve it? And I want to hear about it.
Yeah.
That's obviously a big concern for average TV viewers. It's strange. It's like the Sunday news shows are so weird. It's such a narrow spectrum of opinion on such a narrow set of interests, which is basically how can we sufficiently enforce U.S. hegemony?
Yeah.
And yet these are supposed to be the shows where like the whole country gathers around to like debate the issues of the day that are of concern to average people.
Yeah. And the consensus on this week's was yes, sanctions, but China.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
He also did the much but China, but we'll get into. But anyway, we got more. We really got to move forward because if not, we're not going to get into the stealth. So let's get into the stealth. Let's go to his monologue about what happened at CNN.
Inside CNN, this was a week like no other. The sudden removal of CNN boss Jeff Zucker has rattled this news outlet to its core. Staffers are confused, angry, and concerned about what might come next. So let me try to explain it based on my reporting from inside this very organization. Since Wednesday morning's resignation shock, I've talked with at least 100 people here at all levels, as well as sources on the outside who represent all the players. And the dominant question that I'm getting from inside CNN is why? Why'd this happen? This is the ugliest shakeup at CNN since the days Ted Turner was still walking the halls. Zucker was in charge one minute and he was gone the next. So why? Even employees who didn't like him are mad because this made CNN look bad. So they want to know why. They want to know what happened. But most staffers did like him. Many loved him. Many felt Zucker was the best boss they'd ever worked for. They would walk into war zones for him, and sometimes they did. And in return, Zucker protected them, defended them, cheered for them. He was like a heat shield.
I would join the Zucker army.
I mean,
in fact, I pledge my loyalty to the Zucker army. I will go to a war zone for Jeff Zucker as well. Because look at him.
He is Zucker sexual.
Yes. But and how would you not want to go to a war zone for that man right there?
I know. Well, I like that he said that because you know what makes you go to a war zone? You know what helps you to go to a war zone, especially in a cold place? A heat shield. Oh wait, no, forget the warm place. He's not providing heat. He's protecting you from the heat. Well, he helps you cover war in hot places. And in cold places, he helps you cover it because ammunition, I would think, is hot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I just love the idea that like a war correspondent would go somewhere because it's Jeff Zucker. Yeah. Like, okay, it's like, all right, Jeff, no. Normally I would not go ship off to this war zone to, do like a 2-minute camera hit with my makeup on and do a stunt. But for you, Jeff Zucker, for you, I will go. Yeah, no.
Well, it's convenient. It's convenient
right.
Since there isn't evidence, right? Like we were saying, there isn't really evidence to justify doing this. Often with war, when you got bad intel, you got to go to cover the war for something.
You have to
what makes it worth it?
And it's Zucker. If Zucker wants you to go, then that's
yeah.
There's
all right, Zucker files.
Back to stealth.
It's the best way I can explain it. He shielded his staff from all sorts of heat, from corporate interference, from ratings pressures, from presidential threats. Zucker was always on, seemingly always awake and online, always watching, always quick with words of encouragement, or a sharp question for a guest, or a better idea for a homepage headline.
Wow, a better idea for a homepage headline. It's like, see, the problem with people in this media bubble is they don't understand first of all, how little respect people have for the media now. Maybe there was a point in which someone like Jeff Zucker was could be an admirable figure. Oh, cool. You're running our cable network. But now, like, nobody watches your network anymore. Nobody trusts you. That's why people are flocking to Joe Rogan. And they're trying to, make him look as if he's some kind of, experienced battle general, like in the control room. Like, cut to camera 3. Change the headline on the homepage.
Yeah, make it more clickable. No one's going to click on that. But don't push the credibility gap too hard. Just create curiosity. Yeah. All right. Let's keep going.
He cared deeply, and every employee knew it. Even if they didn't like his story idea or his solution to a problem, they knew that he cared. And that's not always the case in media. Leaders don't always eat, sleep, breathe, live the news, but Zucker did. I mean, this was the headline when he first joined CNN nearly 10 years ago. It says the guy has news in his veins, and that was exactly right. He knows.
I have news in my veins. It's in my veins. And I'm here. I'm here to rescue CNN because news is in my veins. That's why you got to go to war. I'll go to war for you, Jeff Zucker. I'll go to war for you because it's in my veins too. You've injected me with your news powers.
Marvel comic character.
It's amazing. And by the way, before Stelter is like, he protected people from corporate interference.
And presidential threats, by the way. Yeah, from corporate interference.
You are corporate interference. CNN is corporate interference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
His news. Now, I haven't spoken with him since last week, but I'm sure he knows his exit is a big news story. It's been front page news, in fact.
Wow.
So let's try to answer the question on the minds of everyone I've been talking with.
Why?
Why was he forced out? Well, the big part of the story that was underappreciated on Wednesday, all this news coverage on Wednesday, the big part that was underappreciated, the backdrop to all of this, is a looming mega merger. CNN and HBO and the rest of Warner Media are being spun off right now by AT&T. It is step one in the formation of a new company, Warner Brothers Discovery. The current CEO of Discovery, David Zaslav, will run the new company. The deal is most likely...
And Mr. Zaslav, I humbly kiss your feet and now pledge my loyalty to you. I just need to get out this final peon to Jeff Zucker, who gave me this job. But I now will soon pledge my unflinching loyalty to you, and I'll probably forget Jeff Zucker next week.
Despite the media in his veins, despite his news vein syndrome.
2 to 3 months from taking effect, assuming the government and the shareholders all sign off. But assuming is dangerous when it comes to the government. The regulatory review process is complicated. It is a big source of stress for the executives. AT&T and Discovery are determined to get this deal done. It is the top priority. It is, frankly, all that matters to the management right now. They don't want anything to go wrong. And it doesn't seem like anything is going to go wrong. It seems like the deal is going to take effect. But that's the background for Jeff Zucker's exit. Now, what was in the foreground? Well, as these headlines say, he resigned over a relationship with his key lieutenant, Allison Gullist, the head of marketing and PR for CNN. Many people inside this company believe it would not have come to this without Chris Cuomo. So let's unpack that. As the Wall Street Journal reported, Chris Cuomo's legal team raised questions about Zucker's relationship. They brought it to the forefront.
Ugh.
Think back 1 year to the scandals surrounding New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. The governor hurt his brother, Chris, and that caused headaches for Zucker. For months and months, there were debates about whether CNN did the right thing by keeping Chris Cuomo on the air.
What does that mean? Why is he? This is so weird. He hurt his brother, Chris? No, Chris was inappropriately covering his brother and also working behind the scenes to smear his accusers.
That's right.
What do you mean he hurt his brother, Chris? That's so absurd.
Yeah.
Chris is this poor victim. How do you say this shit out loud?
Yeah.
There's a reason he was fired. It wasn't because he was hurt by his brother. He was fired because he was engaging in inappropriate conflict of interest with his brother, which he then didn't apologize for. The way he apologized for it, actually, he didn't step down. He wasn't fired. He just said, I'm a family man. He apologized. He shouldn't have done that. But family comes before the job, which fine. You should be a family man then. Be Mr. Mom or whatever. What the fuck? He hurt his brother.
And CNN was totally down with having Chris interview his brother,
yes,
and like joke about their family and be all chummy back when Cuomo was being portrayed as a hero for his COVID response, when meanwhile, of course, he was letting people in nursing homes die. Which was the scandal that got totally overlooked.
Right.
So Stealth is amazing in his revisionism. He always has a way to spin it to exactly in a way that fits the corporate line. It's
unbelievable.
Pretty impressive.
It's really, I mean, the lack of awareness. The real, who the victim in all of this is? Not the women Cuomo harassed, not the people who died in nursing homes, not the families of people who died in nursing homes who had to deal with, Cuomo cooking the books. No, the real victim was Chris. He was the one who was hurt.
And CNN.
Oh, CNN and Zuck.
Yeah.
As we'll see soon. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, these fucking assholes. Sorry, I'm so angry about that.
Here in prime time, there were lots of debates about it right here inside CNN. Eventually, Zucker decided to fire Chris. No severance, no payout. And that's when Cuomo called in lawyers. He wanted the money. Someone brought up Zucker and Gullist. Were they a couple?
Hold on 1 second. Guys, 1,500 people are watching this. Thank you, Joe Francis, for pointing this out. We got 500 likes. I'm going to venture to say that 1,000 of you are not hate watching this. So everyone, we're taking a moment of silence. Everyone hit that like. Hit the like. Smash the like. If not, you're letting CNN win. We need to have a lot of likes to get this stream out there because this is a very important stream that we're doing. We're speaking a lot of truth to power.
Guys, this is serious. Don't like it for Katie. Don't like it for me. Like it for Zuck.
Like it
for Jeff Zucker. You would go to war for him. You could sure as heck like a stream for him.
Yeah. Yeah. Think of this as just war prep.
Were they violating the company's code of conduct? Wasn't Zucker guilty just like Cuomo was guilty?
No.
See, the way Cuomo's detractors see it, he exacted revenge.
Yeah,
it's as if he said, you took me down, so I'm taking you down.
Right.
Cuomo's allies totally reject this view. They say Chris's hands are clean. Either way, Zucker did have a secret. And that secret came out because of Cuomo's firing and the tug of war that followed.
It was an open secret, by the way.
Zucker was asked if he was in a romantic relationship with Dulles.
He
said yes, but he had not disclosed it before. Now, inside CNN, people had wondered, were they together? But there's a big difference between wondering and knowing. What people did know, and I'm channeling the feelings of many sources when I say this, is that Zucker and Dulles made each other better at work. They were an incredibly effective team. She was essentially his chief of staff. She could have been in line to run CNN.
Question. Why do we care? Why should we care about the relationship of these people? And why is he doing this extended monologue about it? Why can't he just say, they had a personal relationship, it wasn't anyone's business?
No, you know why he can't say that? Well, he had to say, was he guilty of something just like Cuomo was? And the answer to that is, fuck no. No, he wasn't guilty of something that Chris Cuomo was guilty of. He wasn't engaged in a conflict of interest the way that Chris Cuomo was. He wasn't covering for his brother who had blood on his hands. Like, yeah, maybe he violated company policy by not declaring that he was in a relationship with someone. It was consensual. She wasn't working like directly under him. No one's even raising that as an issue. It's just, but obviously Stelz has a soft spot for Chris Cuomo because he's a Cuomosexual as well. Right. And so that's why he's trying to make it look like there's any validity for his being fired. Which, I mean, if he should have been fired, Zucker, it's for bringing back Toobin. Although I think Toobin is not the exhibitionist that people think he is. He's just, that's another issue. We'll get into that. I forgot
about that. Jeffrey Toobin was fired for masturbating on a Zoom call.
Right.
Man, CNN's got so much drama.
And he wouldn't fire Cuomo. It took him way too long.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I feel like Brian Stelter is so loyal to the company that even if he gets fired one day, he'll just start doing live streams outside of Time Warner or CNN headquarters and just being like, and making excuses for, whatever happens. Like, well, I did take Don Lemon's oat milk.
Right.
And I put too much of it in my coffee. And then I got into a fight. Anyway, I just feel like he'll always be making excuses.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's definitely, he's a glutton for punishment. You could tell, just by working there, but he definitely, if he was fired for stealing Don Lemon's oat milk or even overusing it and he got fired for that, he would know that they were doing it for the right reason.
Exactly.
But now all that's gone. And you can draw a straight line from Andrew Cuomo's downfall to Zucker's.
It's Andrew's
fault. It
is
it's not almost Shakespearean.
It is almost
When Zucker's boss, Warner Media CEO Jason Kilar, found out about the relationship last week, he brought it to his boss, AT&T chief John Stankey. My sense is that Zucker knew there would be fallout because he knew he had violated the code of conduct by not disclosing his relationship with his subordinate right away. But he did not expect to get fired. This was, in the minds of many on Team Zucker, a 15-yard penalty, but AT&T threw him out of the game altogether for it. Kilar said Zucker had to resign or he would be terminated. Zucker tried to stay on for a transition period, a month, even just a week, but he was told no. He was out instantly. Which brings us back to the question inside here. Why? CNN's Dana Bash said it to Kilar directly during a tense staff meeting Wednesday night.
Question. How many times has Brian Stelter said, which brings us to the question, why?
Why?
In this monologue. He said it like at least 3 times, I think.
Well, it's such a big question. We're barely scratching the surface of it.
he should conclude by saying, which brings me to the question of why did I just do this monologue?
Why? Right.
Why?
Said it felt
Sorry.
like the punishment didn't fit the crime. That's the prevailing view inside CNN. But Zucker did break the rules. News outlets hold others accountable for breaking the rules all the time. And beyond that, in this case, I wouldn't say timing is everything, but it's a lot of the things. AT&T wants and needs that deal to go through. Doesn't want any mess, any complication. So Zucker is out. And CNN now continues without him. And these headlines capture the situation. Staffers are angry. They're angry at Warner Media. They're angry at Cuomo. And they're wondering, what happens now? We know that Kylar has appointed 3 steady, reliable hands, 3 longtime members of Zucker's leadership team to run CNN until Discovery takes over. Michael Bass, Amy Entelis, Ken Jouts. They know what to do, and they're doing it every day, keeping CNN humming along. When this deal closes, probably April or May, Discovery will name a new boss, a new head of CNN. I'm told by sources that Discovery views this as a fresh start for CNN. And maybe in a year, people will look back and say this was a good thing for CNN, new leadership. But it's not what the staffers here wanted, and certainly not like this.
All right, now he asked what's. Oh no, keep going, Aaron.
Well, he finally finished with some mild criticism of the company. I mean, he's still pledging loyalty to the new boss, but he's still, he's showing some loyalty to his old boss, which, I guess was a moment of mild humanity on Stelter's part. So that's worth, I guess, acknowledging and encouraging.
Right. Yeah. Morphine class income. Yeah. Let's he asked what's next. Let's show you what's next. Let's play the next clip of Stealth. Do we have the next one? The one that's not Twitter, but actually just from CNN.
Yeah, but talk. I think there's going to be an ad, so I'll play through it.
Okay, yeah. So keep going. Well, okay. While you get that ready, Katie, do you hate it too when Americans always say belong to we the people, or it comes from we the people? Drives me potty. Well, but we the people, I almost think of as like a bracketed thing. It's a good question. We can get into that, but I think when people say that, it's like I don't know how to explain this. I'm not caffeinated enough, but I think it comes from we. Of course, you can't say that, but I think when people say it belongs to we the people, it is like an idiom that they're putting in there, and it's a callback to the But you're right, technically, grammatically, yeah. I just can't believe that basically the only bad guy in this story is Andrew Cuomo. Chris is the victim. Chris, you know what the Cuomos did. You know what they did. You have Andrew Cuomo telling Ron Kim when he's going to speak out and reveal the fact that he was told by an idiot who works for Cuomo that they cooked the books because they're so used to anything but Trump. They're so used to using Trump as an excuse for anything. So they basically said we had to cook the books. We had to fix, distort the numbers about nursing home deaths because we didn't want Trump to get us in trouble or yell at us, right? So she says this shit out loud in front of people. Ron Kim is going to tell people about it. Andrew Cuomo gets on the phone and says, I will destroy you. This is a Cuomo move. And Chris did it. I'm going to say that I don't have all the evidence. That's my hunch, let's say. And it seems to be Brian Stelter's hunch, but his thing is more like Chris did it, but what are you going to do? He's the victim. He was hurt by Andrew. You know what they should do? Tish James should do another attorney general's report into what Andrew Cuomo did to Chris Cuomo, how he was violated, how he suffered, how his rights were violated. Yeah.
Charles August super chats. This clears the lane for Hillary Clinton to become the first woman president of CNN. Only Putin can stop this now. That's right.
It's true. And if they don't name it to her, you're a bunch of sexists who are working for Russia. Yeah. Okay, so Brian Stelter said, what's next? Well, here's don't worry about what's not next. Okay.
I want to end the hour with a final thought, and I'm going to go a little bit rogue here, so bear with me, okay?
Yeah,
Jeff Zucker's departure was shocking to the staff of CNN. But CNN was not built by just one man, not by only Ted Turner.
He's going
and
rogue.
It was not led only by Jeff Zucker. CNN is so much bigger than any single individual. It is about teams and teams of people, thousands of individuals who make up CNN.
He's going rogue.
This place is not
He's
perfect.
gone rogue. Yeah.
It will never be perfect. We will always have flaws. We will always screw up. We will always have to run corrections. We will always have to keep working to make it better and better and better every single day. That is the goal. But the people who say we're lacking journalism, that we've become an all talk channel, that we've run off and we're all opinions all the time, that Jeff Zucker led us astray, those people aren't watching CNN. They're not watching CNN. They're watching complaints about CNN on other channels that don't know what they're talking about. That's the truth. Let's put the map up on screen of bureaus around the world. CNN has more bureaus around the world than almost any other news organization on the planet.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah, which makes their bad ratings really pathetic.
London and
I love how he said, okay, I'm going to go rogue by proceeding to do a 2-minute long infomercial for my network.
Yeah,
okay?
right. That was really brave. I mean, CNN must be freaking out by this rogue agent right now.
He's
What's
going
he gonna
rogue.
say?
He's going rogue. He's praising us too much.
I know.
This is crazy.
Yes.
This is crazy.
Rogue filleting of CNN.
Rogue filleting.
Moscow and Hong Kong and Beijing and Nairobi and all the rest. That's why one of the network's slogans is "Go there." On the day Jeff Zucker resigned, CNN aired more than 135 reporter hits, 135 reporters in the US and around the world. I'm talking about dozens of live shots from international correspondents in just one day. On the day Jeff Zucker resigned, CNN published more than 215 stories on the website, nearly 90 original videos. That's a hell of a lot of news. It's a hell of a lot of journalism.
Hell of a lot.
Do some of the anchors say provocative things? Yes. Do some of those clips get played over and over again on other channels and mislead people about what CNN actually is? Yes. CNN is the reporters and the producers and the production assistants and the writers and the editors and the technical directors. CNN is the executives and it's the interns and everybody in between who keeps this place running 24/7. So when something horrible happens in the world or when something wonderful happens in the world, you know where to turn. That's what CNN is. We lost our leader this week, but we're not going anywhere.
That was so amazing. That was so rogue.
Wow.
I mean, what is CNN going to do? Are they going to have to discipline him, have a meeting?
Yeah. Stelter suspended for praising CNN too much.
Too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to rein him in, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. We have bureaus all around the world manufacturing consent for war and sanctions and disinformation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Content constantly. That's who we are.
It's in contact. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's so embarrassing. It's so cringe.
And they wonder why no one's watching them anymore. Who wants to watch that?
Well, that's what makes their low numbers so pathetic. Like, that's what makes their numbers so pathetic is that they do have these offices all over.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That was so rogue. I feel like I have whiplash from how rogue that was.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, guys,
that was like the best stealth I think I've ever witnessed on this show. That was just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I mean, he is basically cable news Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Guys, we're gonna have to maybe next week we're not gonna start until we get a bunch of likes. I'm serious. I'm serious about it. How many likes do we have now? I don't want to alienate the audience, and I apologize to PD again if you're out there. I'm sorry I put you in a timeout. I'll send you, if you're not a subscriber to our Substack, I'll send you a free Substack paywalled episode. But guys, we love you. We know you love us. Oh my God, we got rubles, guys. Oh my God. Hold up. Is that rubles? Evgeny Antonov, I'm going to say yes. Thank you for this. Seriously, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the rubles.
Thank you for the rubles. We're going to, people are going to use that against us.
Oh, this is going to be screenshotted and this is going to like follow me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, follow us.
Useful Idiots funded by the Russians.
No, seriously. And we're beholden. Actually, that's a very generous donation. That's $25, $26.46. Nice. So thank you so much. We are now they're going to call us out. We're beholden to our Russian donors.
There we go.
Yeah.
This is it. This is it. Yeah, that was some incredible moments from Stelter and incredible moments from Face the Neocons and
So great.
Meet the Depressed. And so are we done with the clips? Is that it? Are we
Yeah, I
maxed
think
out?
so. One person said it looked like you were in the living room and I was in the kitchen in the same house. You must have a very literary kitchen. I mean, I have a little bookshelf behind me.
One person said it looked like you stole my books, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's a little, I mean, more plausible, I think, than this being a kitchen. A kitchen library.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, guys, I did put I put out in this link the link to the Free Assange show. That's okay, right, Aaron? You're down with Assange, freeing Assange. So it's not like I'm putting a link to a show that I'm doing that's, I don't know.
Does Jeff Zucker approve?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to ask.
I can't make any decisions anymore unless it is Jeff Zucker pre-clearance.
Unless you hear from your heat shield.
Yeah, unless I hear from a heat shield.
Yeah.
And my control room commander.
Yeah. And free Peltier. Yes, free Leonard Peltier. And all political prisoners. And let's see. Thank you so much, Wilson. Thank you for Wilsoning on.
Thank you, Wilson.
It's a cookbook. That's true. It could be a cookbook, but it's not a cookbook. Yeah. And we will see you. Don't forget to like the stream. Don't forget to rate and review us on podcasts, on whatever podcast app you listen to, even if you don't listen to us on a podcast, honestly, even if you're more video people. We just got to beat the Lincoln Project, and we got to beat Pod Save America. Also, please become Substack supporters for the show. And usefulidiots.substack.com. Again, that's usefulidiots.substack.com. And
so we can compete with CNN and send Useful Idiots correspondents everywhere around the world.
Yeah, we got to do that.
And put out 200 stories a day, just like CNN.
We got to do that, yeah. And really, you're going to want to become Substack subscribers to see Katrina vanden Heuvel.
Yeah, we have a great bonus segment with her this week where we actually, funnily enough, we play a clip from CNN.
We do, yeah.
Where her late husband, Stephen F. Cohen, was on with Max Boot a few years ago, and they had this epic sparring match, and we react to it, and it's great. And
yeah. Also, please subscribe to us on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe. Hit that subscribe. That way, if we do, we're going to probably be doing some live events that aren't planned. You're going to want to hear about those by hitting subscribe. Thank you so much for saying my, I know I'm so glad Aaron joined Useful Idiots, because everyone knows that Aaron does amazing reporting, award-winning reporting, but he doesn't get to be as funny on
Does Jeff Zucker know that I do amazing reporting? Does Jeff Zucker know that?
You're right. Until Jeff Zucker gives you an award.
Yeah, does it matter?
Yeah. 500. How many likes do we have? Oh, thank you, Rustam. Is a Bekov? What's A? What currency is A? Does anyone know? But how many likes do we have? How can we see this? Hold on. View on YouTube. Let's see. How many likes do we have? We got 1.1K. It's not actually bad. I mean, 500 people should be liking it right now, but that's a good thing. Yeah. Well, guys, we love you. We will see you later this week. And of course, we'll see you next week.
I love you. And by you, I mean Jeff Zucker.
Right. We love Zucker. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna have to do a Zucker check-in. Yeah. All right. See you guys later.